Okay, welcome to day 5 of my diary series for the self-development programs that I have been creating, soon to launch to the public in a class format. Okay, so I'm going to continue on values, personal values, and one of the biggest ones that have come up for me is the value of love, and to fine-tune that a little bit more, the value of your self-love. This is something that really came up for me in my current processes, as I myself, in complete transparency, have been through something a little different than just the current events that we're going through globally, but a bit more personally. And it's often not spoken about through our circles of friends and women to women, even in our society, as I've done quite a lot of research into what it is when a woman goes through a miscarriage. Now, recently I had a miscarriage, and it's interesting because in that time frame that I was pregnant, I was very disconnected to myself. And for complete transparency, as much as I am a teacher and a trainer in supporting connection to self and to all that is through spiritual development, self-awareness, health and well-being, I myself, as all humans, go through growth and disconnection for reconnection to become a better human, as well as more light and fulfilled and happy, through the expansion of our self-awareness, which I will also label consciousness awareness. A miscarriage was an interesting experience for me, as there was this bit of sense of shame and guilt, and in it also a sense of ego was slightly crushed, because I didn't know at the time how disconnected I really was, as I wasn't in tune with my body, and not even actually knowing that I was going through the development of a baby in my body. So that's quite crushing on the ego, when you yourself are very much in that field and that purpose in supporting connection to being in tune with yourself. And so this is partial reason as to why I myself am now going through a self-research and a self-development of the programs that I teach, to embodying and practicing for my current situations at the moment. And only this becomes a more potent, stronger lesson, not only for myself, but when I start to transmit my lessons and my classes to everyone else, the potency of the genuine self-experience through my own self, embodying my own practices, as well as expanding into other people's practices to support my my health and my well-being through the current experiences that I'm going through in myself. So, talking about self-love, so in that process I had to go through pretty much diagnosing myself in what was going on in my environment and what was different according to what I would normally classify as a value, a self-love act, things that make me truly happy. And it was one of the things where I was in that process because I was only just over a month pregnant, and I had to kind of backtrack the puzzle and undo the puzzle piece to see exactly where I was. And that was in the time frame of me moving out of my home and closing down my business, in that current status of retreats and yoga center, and really developing my own identity in a place that I truly love, in the Sunshine Coast, which is where my heart and soul truly feels nourished from the land, as well as from all of the natural resources that are there. And I look at that and I write down what was and what served me. And like, for example, certain things like the beach, being close to the ocean, is a really big support to my health and well-being, not only just for my personal self, but as a known fact that the saltwater breeze and the ocean air in itself, just being on a footpath walking along the side of it, it cures so much negative ions in our energetic field. Even just one little fingertip in the ocean is enough to recalibrate us at a cellular level. Even in the statistics, they say it can support the process of moving through forms of emotional imbalance like anxiety, stress, and depression. So that was one of the main things that I could see, also, as well as going through the stresses of the changes that were uplifted, not just in the global experiences of what our community and our country and our world is going through coronavirus, but at the same time, like, a grieving process as well, in like all of that energy of my identity in that current moment had to go into like a pause. And so that in itself, in how that turbulence had moved through my personal self, I didn't actually realize how much that was affecting me until the imbalances of my emotions started to affect not just my own relationship with myself, but my relationships with others, to the point where I became quite withdrawn to my external environment, which then, in a process of checking in and using your environment as your external world, so the people around you, like using your external world as a form of a check-in to see what potentially could be reflecting within yourself to the external world. And then I was like, hold on a second, why am I withdrawing myself to the external world? It was because I was withdrawing from my own self, my internal world. And so that's where I started to really tune into what it was that I'm not actually doing that was really potent and a part of my daily ritual of life, but hadn't been doing. If not, the frustration of not doing it became even more of a domino of heaviness through the self-talk that I was telling myself, why aren't you doing it, and feeling bad about not doing it, through the dialogue of the mind. And so my mind was creating a even worse a platform for me in trying to push through the blocks and the resistances that were going through me at that current time. And so this is why I started my 21-day series. It's like through the self-talk. So self-love, one of my most potent values. Love is all there is. Love is consciousness, and love is what will support the uplift of our expansion in our self and our world and our universe. And so my practice in self-love was talking to myself, like constantly telling myself in the morning when I wake up those 3 repeated programming patterns: I love you, you're healthy. What was the other one? I love you, you're healthy. Anyway, repeating those, I just had a bit of a mind block and I'm not going to start this again. So repeating those positive words, and it doesn't matter what words they are. You know, what was coming up for me actually when I had the roadblock trying to search for the other one is I'm worthy. Now I'm worthy, I love you, and I'm healthy. So these 3 things that are currently coming up for me, and I think that's what I'm going to reprogram now because that's alive in me, is worthy, I love you, and health. Is to reprogram the things that you feel that you don't have, or you're not speaking to yourself. And if you can't find the value, whether it be self-love, whether it be respect, whether it be trust, whether it be any of those things, choose something of somebody that you idolize, a value of someone that you idolize, and remind yourself, and then continue to tell yourself about that value. And I know day 3 and day 4 diary entries are kind of blending into day 5, because I really feel values is a really profound topic, especially personal values, in the way that we relate with ourselves to the way that we relate with everything else in the world. If we respect and love ourselves, the way that we tune in and relate with everything else will continue to follow in that same value through our own behaviors, our own actions, and our own thoughts that we are transmitting and moving through in our everyday life. So the self-love, moving back to my experience, I went through like a lot of self-esteem issues, the lack of capacity to hold a baby in my own body, to questioning, going, shit, I'm actually not healthy, and there's something imbalanced in my body, whether it be, to the point of even using all elements of the health, of the physical, energetic, and the mental state of our being. And then I had to go through the process, not just through the grieving process of the business and the grieving process of moving into a space that's so far away from the beach, to really standing true in my authentic identity and my own personal values when surrounded by such other beautiful humans with their own personal values that have similar but also conflicting space, which is okay in moments of relating, but then at the same time also not allowing those external judgments of other people's personal values affect your own truth and your own space of health and well-being, which is something that I personally was experiencing through myself in where I am at the moment. And so it was a very interesting process where I realized that I needed to really tune back into the bare basics of what keeps you healthy and what keeps you happy and what keeps you in a point of, optimal status, just in a normal, everyday life. And so that comes down to meditation, that comes down to movement, and that comes down to mindfulness. So like 3 triple M's, which is something that I've always called myself in my movement practice, as a moving therapist as well as an internal therapist through the body, mind, and soul, mindful moving meditation. And so things that I wasn't doing throughout that time was meditation on a regular basis, even into the point of checking in and tuning in and allowing myself that time to come into myself, to connect with the earth, to the point where I was disconnected. Then the movement, I wasn't moving as much. It was actually quite a push and a drain for me to actually even motivate myself into that energy status of wanting to move, because of all of the negative energy, the negative thoughts, the negative dialogue that was continuing to spiral through me was causing me to move lower and lower and lower in my vibration, which creates a negative effect at us at a cellular level, which then becomes pretty much a depletion in what and how our body lives and creates through our life. So one thing that I was really grateful for was acknowledgement, and that's another big part of one of my values is self-acknowledgement and self-awareness, and knowing that no matter how high or how far we're in our practices for our self-development and our teachings, we are always going to be going through areas of our life where we're going to be thrown with experiences that we may have experience with or no experience with, even to the point of we are thrown off balance, to really recheck in and work deeper and more stronger and healthier within ourselves. And I'm so grateful for all of my experiences, to the point even though I was going through such a downward spiral of my experience with my miscarriage, I've been able to really turn and use that as a positive experience to say, hey Fleur, check in, something's going on, what is it that you're not doing, recalibrate, check in, reevaluate where you are, and just start to practice one little step at a time. And today my step was self-love. No matter what other people think about me driving 40 minutes to an hour from where I'm living to access something that truly serves me, which is the ocean and the beach, especially in the times of when I'm truly needing to open into a space of health and happiness. And that is nourishing your body with the things that you need. And so that comes down to what you love for yourself. And it doesn't matter, more a part of not something external consumption in regards to unhealthy practices of like shopping and consumption of drugs and alcohol, but something more so, what is that is a serving, healthy practice that supports you. And for me it was walking along the beach, yoga, light exercise practice on the beach with a beautiful swim in the ocean. And this is something that I'm truly grateful for, and the support of where my current experiences are. So today for day 5 is, what do you love? And apply that space of love into your values and into your day, and allow yourself move through that journey without worrying about what other people are thinking. As long as it's a supportive thing for you and it doesn't harm other people as you're doing it and your choices, you yourself are entitled to do whatever it takes to make you in tune, healthy, in your own space of truth. And and so I'm really super grateful for my morning today. I feel a really big shift in the uplift with the practices of the repeated words that have been going through, and I can feel the shift in my energy today. I can feel this glow of light coming through me just through the small little acts of yumminess that cause such an impact in my body at a cellular, spiritual, physical level in the one go. I love you guys. I just wish you all the best in your processes in your own development, and no matter how far we are in our practice, we are always going to be learning and growing. Bye bye.